Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. And another treat coming right up is the fabulous Sally Oddy. Sally is a business mentor specialising in mentoring female coaches, ultimately so they can have the life they want, being successful with freedom, is what I'm understanding. And what I love about Sally is her openness to share her own experiences that have led her to where she is now, which, if you ask me, sounds like she's in her dream life. We were just speaking before hitting the red button of record that her dream life is happening now and upgrading even more to moving to Spain. So over December, when we're all wrapping up presents in our cosy pajamas, Sally will be knee-high in a removal van, moving her life to another country, which we will get stuck into. So welcome, Sally, and thank you so much for joining our Meant for More movement. I know that this is right up your street, where you help women already be in their potential, but I want to start by asking you the obvious question. When did you realise, or what occasions did you realise, because I'm guessing it's more than one, that you were meant for more, and what did it lead to?
It's funny, when I was kind of preparing for this and thinking about it, because I do think life happens, doesn't it? And you kind of forget when these things happened. But my earliest thought about it was in the late 90s, I used to watch the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I
Just
was like
love Oprah.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That was my sort of period of time in my life when I watched the Oprah Winfrey Show. And I learned a lot from her. But when I watched that show, something inside of me said, that's going to be you one day. Not that I was going to be Oprah Winfrey, but that one day your voice would be heard. You need to be sharing, basically there was something inside me that was saying, you've got some stuff that you need to be sharing. And that was when I was like 15. I kind of felt that. So that was probably the first real nudge. And it just kind of came to me so naturally that it was I just accepted it immediately, that that's what my life would be one day. And it's funny now, on the eve of my 50th birthday, yes, I have done a lot of stuff in my life where my voice has been heard and I have got in front of a lot of people, but I still feel like it's coming. I still feel like the biggest of what I'm meant for is yet to come, if that makes sense.
Yes, perfect sense. And I think that's the sign of somebody who's consciously in growth, that you don't have an attitude of, right, this is it, I've arrived, I can unpack, settle here, and this is where I'm going to dwell for the rest of my life. It's that kind of curiosity. Well, it feels like that kind of curiosity for your own upgrades.
Yeah, it's funny, talking about that just brings to mind the sort of thought of purpose. And I think a lot of people get really stuck in this search for purpose. What's my purpose? I need to have a very defined purpose in life. And I think I was on that same treadmill for quite a long time. I think what I've realised is the purpose of life is not happiness. That's a very big misconception that I think really trips a lot of people up, because I think in society we kind of led to believe you've got to strive to be happy. You've got to be happy all the time. I think the purpose of every single one of our lives is growth and evolution. That's it. And as long as you're doing that, as long as you're learning and you're growing and you're evolving, whatever that looks like for you, your life's path will flow naturally from that. You don't need to have any other, like, I'm going to do it this way or influence these people, or as long as you're focused on your own growth and evolution journey, you're living your purpose as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, curiosity and being open to what's coming for you and what's right in front of you. That's life's purpose. It's nothing deeper than that, I don't really think.
I hadn't thought about it this way until I was talking with a racing car coach, and he said, this was years ago, and it's so obvious, the unconscious mind is not interested in your happiness. It is only interested in keeping you alive. Happiness is the ingredient we have to contribute. And happiness is a choice of perspective, isn't it?
You can be happy at any moment. There's happiness in every moment. Like literally, my mum died like going on for 10 years ago now, and I was at her side when she died. And when she died, obviously it was the most devastating thing to have ever happened to me. But anyone who's lost a loved one, who's seen them go, will know that this is a very common occurrence, that when someone is dying, they reach up for their loved ones who come to get them. And in that moment when she passed away, she looked to the corner of the room and then she looked directly ahead of her and she reached up like this. And I was overwhelmed with so much joy for her that her mum and dad were there, and her dog, who she loved very much. So even in the darkest hour,
Sally, hang on. That's amazing. I am covered in goosebumps. And what a lovely belief to cement in our minds of that time. You know, the time that I think people may most fear is what happens when you take that last breath. And to hear you describe your mum's experience and you witnessing it and you seeing her reaching up.
For days before she was reaching her hand up, for days before she died, she was literally reaching her hand up like this, lying in bed. And I've since done a lot of research on it, and it's a well-known thing that like people in hospices report it, that's what people do. And there is this firm belief that it's because your loved ones come to collect you.
Wow. You know, you remind me of a story of I was 17 and I was in hospital and I was completely alone in a room on my own. And my mum had died 3 years earlier. And a friend, my best friend at school's mum's best friend, had said to me, her husband had died and she had 2 children. And she said that her husband comes and sits on the kids' beds and chats to them, and the daughter will say, "Oh, daddy came tonight." And she believed that the loved ones come back when there isn't an attachment or dependency upon them, and when you most need them and there's nobody else around. So that's kind of the setup for what I'm going to say next. And so I remember leaving my body. Well, I don't remember leaving my body. I remember looking down and seeing my body on the bed and my mum standing next to me holding flowers in a blue anorak she'd wear. And when I reached to grab her, she was gone. Like that. It was almost like, I want you to know you are not alone. Oh, I could cry. You're not alone, but also you can't depend. You can't depend.
Goes through my main philosophy of life. Like, a lot of people are scared to die alone. Like, we don't have kids, and a lot of people, I think, have kids because they're scared to be alone at old age. To be honest, I've given my death quite a lot of thought, if I'm honest. I think after seeing my mum die, you do. And it's interesting as well, in that, I know we're going a bit left field here, but in that moment, the palliative care doctor said to us, when she starts to transition, don't touch her and don't talk to her. She must transition on her own.
Wow.
If you're there and you're talking and you're touching her, she'll get distracted and she'll want to stay. So I have no fear of dying in a room completely on my own, because I know I'm not going to be alone.
I love this. And I don't mind that we've gone a bit left field. I always think we go exactly where we're meant to. And we never discussed this, did we? Our heart just... I was talking to a friend of mine who looks after people who are suffering with grief. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yes. About the death experience, about what, you know, letting people you know around you what you want. And I'm known for not liking lots of loud noise. I don't know, because we're introverts, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're confident introverts. I don't like loud noises. I don't like lots of ridiculous chatter that's unnecessary going on around me, but I'm known for that. But I would like some nice smelling candles. And a friend of mine, Teresa, had listened to the interview and she said, right, got it.
Yeah.
If I'm there, I'm getting the nurses to shut up, people not to come in and start chatting around you or at you, just to sit with you. And it's just listening to what you've just said about what the palliative care specialists say is don't interrupt, because people do think they need to hold their hand. That is so fascinating.
You've got to, I just believe you transition alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone, but you know, I don't feel that I need to have a lot of friends or a lot of people in my life so that when I'm dying, there's going to be a room full. In fact, I don't want anyone there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a room full of people there when I die.
Well, it almost gives the feeling of the like, I've got a meeting at 4. Is this, and I imagine if I'm laid there with people around me, I'm thinking, and I'm always like this. I don't want to be an inconvenience. I've got a heightened sensitivity to consideration.
Same.
And so I'd be thinking, I should hurry up because these people have got lives to live and they're all waiting for me. Fascinating. And
just going back to like purpose of life and stuff, it all ties in really that if you do believe that dying alone isn't a bad thing, that a life well lived doesn't mean that you've got to have children and loads of people at your funeral, because it doesn't mean that at all. A life well lived is a life of growth and evolution, and obviously then, you know, living a life of, you know, kindness and all of that stuff as well goes without saying. But yeah, like because that is your purpose in life. So as long as you've stayed true to that, you know, dying at the end of the day isn't something you need a lot of people around to. I think it's that thing as well where we're always looking for like acceptance and affirmation and validation, and we think that other people around us can give us that. No, you give yourself that. It's an inside game. All of it is.
And you've obviously got to this wisdom, and it feels embodied when you're speaking. It feels visceral when you're speaking. You've obviously got this through a lived experience, because I know that I think we should reinvent ourselves regularly because we have old skins to let go of because we've outgrown them, and to blossom into the next chapter or season of our life. But you've had this learning or this experience because you yourself have had burnout and had to move with resilience and reinvent yourself. Can you just share a little bit, or as much as you like, about that?
On that meant for more journey, the first one that I could think about was definitely Oprah Winfrey, and the second one was actually my corporate burnout. I was a legal secretary for a long time. I fell into marketing for big law firms, and I had a really bad burnout where I actually lost the sight in my right eye. And I still have very limited macular vision. So my central vision in my right eye is still damaged. And that was in 2010. I had that corporate burnout, which I didn't take time off and I didn't really recover from it. But that to me was a huge... Sometimes I think people think that burnout is the worst thing that can happen to you. I don't know if I agree. I know that it can be devastating and it can take a long time to recover from, but I've had 2 really traumatic physical burnouts and both were a gift, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That first one told me that climbing the corporate ladder was no longer for me, that it was time to leave. And I knew it was time to leave. It was just like you say, it was visceral, like it was this full body understanding, I've got to get out of here. I can't do this. And so then I quit my full-time corporate job and I started a marketing consultancy. So I kind of was doing what I'd always done. I was still actually doing marketing for law firms and accounting firms. And then the sort of third meant for more turning point came when I'd been avoiding women. This is interesting, actually. I'd been avoiding women for years because that burnout that I had was at the hands of a female manager who was power hungry, bullying, and systematically broke me down over 2 years. So since that happened, I had avoided women. So all of my clients were men. I was in a man's world and I wanted nothing to do with women. And then I don't even know what drew me to it. I went to a ladies' networking event, which I'd never been to, all women's network. Like, it was my idea of hell, to be honest. Went to this ladies' networking event and very, very sort of trepidatious about it. And went in there and the instant feeling of I've come home. It was like, all these women that I met were so inspiring, so fascinating. I wanted to know all of their stories and what had brought them here and the businesses they were building and why they built them. And in the course of that evening, I was like, oh my gosh, I could turn all of this business and marketing knowledge that I have and I could help women who are inspired with wisdom and insight and experience, who are all here wanting to do something to make the world better. This is how I can make the world better, by helping them have businesses that make the world better. And that was really, I think, I don't know if it's your calling or whatever it is, but that's really when I realized I could take my sort of very sort of corporate and boring business and marketing skills, but I could turn it into something that would have a massive global impact, and that was the huge turning point for me when I started scaling down my sort of corporate consultancy business, if you like. And that's when I really transitioned to online business mentoring, completely aimed at helping female solopreneurs. And that's what I've done ever since. That was sort of March 2019. And it's not been easy, I think there's definitely been a lot of challenges, but in my heart, I know that this is what brings me the most joy, the happiness, and part of it as well, working with these women. And I've kind of segued into, I suppose, specializing and helping coaches and mentors and online educators. So they're all kind of a similar type of woman. They're very into personal development. They're very spiritual, very into their own growth journeys, into mindset and all that stuff. And when I sort of segued into that world, my own growth and evolution journey really started. And it's only because I've immersed myself in working with these women that I myself have grown and become more than I ever dreamed that I could be.
And I think that's where that's where you know you're in the right place, when it's symbiotic. It's that when I think that we know that we're in the wrong place when something drains our energy and we feel sleepy, tired, fatigued, not wanting to move. That's a real kind of the body saying, I am shutting down because I have no drive for this. And then when you're in the space or talking to somebody you're meant to be talking to, like our conversation is so alive, even though we've talked about death.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking to the right people or working with the right people, is that you feel alive, where there might not have been energy 10 minutes before, and then suddenly you're in the right environment and your whole system is available. Your confidence, your trust, your curiosity, your energy is all available and accessible and ready and sparked. And I always talk about the inner fire that just gets stoked because it's around the right people.
Yeah.
And so just going back slightly then to when you were making that transition from, and you say boring corporate work that you're doing, but I find marketing fascinating.
I love it as well, I have to say.
For me, and I do my own, I'm part of another membership club. But what I love about doing my own marketing, because I know you get your coaches to do their own, I love that I get to put my intention into the message. I like producing my own LinkedIn and Facebook posts rather than subcontracting it out, because I'm everything I teach is about action with intention. Action alone, people can feel it, but if you fuel it with an intention, then it's the intention that people experience.
And this is the thing, I think with female solopreneurs, or any solopreneur, in the sort of areas that we're all in, it's all about personal brand, because people buy people and people are buying me. So as a business mentor, there are so many, to choose from. Somebody will see a video of mine or see something I've put out there, and they'll energetically feel that vibe and they'll connect and they'll kind of instantly kind of get who I am,
Yeah.
When you see even really big international coaches and mentors, you can tell when they've started outsourcing their marketing, their copywriting, their social media presence, because all of the heart and soul is gone. And it just feels like a corporate business, really, like a commercial concern. And that's not the kind of business that we're all building. So with all of my clients, no matter what they're doing, 100% I say, like, I'm here to give you the strategy, the structure, like I can help you, put this in the right format, but you're the formula,
Yes.
You're the one who has to breathe life in. I can't do that for you. If you don't have it, like if you're trying to grow a business that is out of alignment, nothing I do will help you. And actually, I don't want to work with you, because I only work with women who are doing things that really fire up their soul. Otherwise, I'm just not actually that interested.
Yeah, when people are wanting just to do it for the money. I mean, I tell you, one of the things I've been getting a little bit totally switched off by and a little bit upset by is these marketers that are saying, stop doing one-to-one coaching. And I think, why? People need one-to-one coaching. Why are you telling me to or whoever to stop. And because they're saying you can make money out of doing group coaching, yes, of course you can. But I'm in this to make a difference to people in the format that makes the difference for them.
Yeah.
Not in the format that that only makes a lot of money.
So it's interesting that really, one of the things I think in the online coaching industry specifically, one of the things I think we all need to recognize is there is no right or wrong. There is no black and white. Like whatever works for you works for you. And that's fine. Like whatever works for you. For me, my philosophy is, yes, I do some one-to-one work, but I prefer one-to-many. My philosophy is I want to impact as many people as I humanly possible can in the least possible time while making the most possible money doing it. And for me, that's not one-to-one because it's not a leveraged model. Like if I'm just sat in a room with one person, I'm impacting that one person. Whereas for me, like being online, doing YouTube or having my membership, in that 1 hour, I can impact hundreds of women,
Absolutely.
Women.
And what I'm saying is
Both. Like
yeah,
a business where you're doing one-to-one and the other, or if you just want to do one-to-one and that's what you love and that's what lights you up and you can make enough money to get what you need then just do that. Like there is no one size fits all.
That's my point, is I object to somebody saying stop. I mean, I love doing one-to-many and I love doing my one-to-ones. But I think I object to the marketeers out there, not you. I've never heard you say this anyway, trying to get coaches to only look at how they can make the most money.
Yeah.
And I'm about the whole lot, making money, making a difference, making an impact whilst doing what I absolutely love.
Yeah.
So just backtracking a little bit, when you did your reinvention, when you dared, I mean, it sounded like you had no choice to leave the corporate world because your body was saying, I'm going to communicate with you in a way that's fully got your attention. And I don't know if you remember Oprah Winfrey saying this, but I just love it. Life will give you, to redirect you onto your course, will throw a pebble at you. And that might be a cold, just to get your attention. And if you think, no, keep going, then the next thing is a rock. And that could be prolonged cold or flu. And then it's a brick, and then it's a wall, and then that's kind of pleurisy or whatever. And then it'll bring the house down on you, to halt you, to get your attention, to say, this isn't the path you're meant to be on. It's this one. You can have the life that you dream of, rather than thinking dreams don't come true, whatever belief system we were brought up with. Do you remember her having that saying?
Specifically, but I've got a lot of Oprah-isms that I kind of live by. But I think with that, and one of the things I think in the prep for this, the sort of outline that you sent me, was how like helping other people understand how to figure out what that is for them. Things that I've suffered 2 burnouts, unfortunately. One wasn't enough. I had to have another one. And I had another one at the end of last year. So the end of 2023, I had another very traumatic physical burnout that involved my heart. It was very scary. After that, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And if anyone out there is like, okay, but how do I know what it is I should do? The best thing you can do is sit in silence. So after my last burnout, I literally just sat on the sofa for like a week, because obviously I was burned out, but not to read a book, not to listen to a podcast, not to watch TV, not to do anything else that's distracting you from you, and to really just give yourself that space, that time, that silence to tune in, because all of the wisdom you need is inside of you, and you, in your heart of hearts, you know what you want to do and who you want to be and how you want your life to live. Maybe you're afraid of it, maybe you've been pushing it down, maybe you're scared of it. But if you just sit in silence with yourself, just do some journaling, just with no sort of feeling like I've got to act or I've got to do, I've got to burn my life down and start again. Just give yourself that gentle, quiet time to go inwards. Remember how to listen to your own intuition and be silent with yourself. That's the way to figure out what you need to do next. Because when I had that burnout at the end of 2023, I was like, oh my gosh, well, what now? I'd literally, so that year I'd been fully booked doing one-to-one. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm meant to be doing, like helping all these women and serving all these women. And then at the end of that year, I had this massive burnout. So I was like, okay, that's not it. So what is it? This is what I thought it was. This is what I thought it had to look like. But obviously there's another path for me. I'm meant for more. You know, it's not just this one-to-one that I should be doing. There's more here. But it wasn't more as in more work, more effort, more stress, more strain. It was actually less of that. But for me, it's this whole year actually has been about finding and figuring out how I can have, yes, a lucrative business alongside impacting hundreds of thousands of women all over the world, but while really taking care of myself. Like you say, we're moving to Spain. My whole lifestyle is going to be about working a lot less. So I had to figure out ways of really taking care of my own health and well-being and living my life while still having this massive impact. So yeah, at the end of last year, when that burnout happened, like I said, it's a gift. It's like, you know, you're kind of doing the thing, but you're not doing it in the right way for you. So quieten down and listen. And even if it takes, like my income has dipped this year while I've been trying to figure out how to move forward in a way that's more in alignment with who I am and what I want to do, you know. So even if it takes time, and even if it's uncomfortable, and even if it doesn't make sense, and even if everyone else is saying, stop doing this or do that, you've got to just keep your head down and focus on your own path.
I love that because I love that being still. We've become unfamiliar with being still and not distracted. So not only are people watching the TV, but they've also got the laptop on the knee and the phone at the side. We have never been so overwhelmed with devices that we are conditioning our mind into lack of concentration, lack of introspection, lack of trusting self. I mean, so many people I chat to, I know what their challenge is. It's that they're not trusting themselves. They're totally right in their thoughts, their feelings, but they're not trusting them. And I think that comes from us being externally stimulated all the time. So we think the answer to what we want to do next is outsiders. And I'm all for people looking inside and thinking, what do I feel great about? Who am I with when I feel great? What is it we're talking about? What am I curious about? What have I always been fascinated in? So how did you get to... And I love as well that you say, I'm making less income, but I'm reorientating. And this morning I was really inspired to do a video on to create a new life, but I haven't done it. I have created the video. I'm just not happy with it. But it was about creating a new life. Don't expect to create it on top of the old one. You have to create space.
Yeah.
And you have to create space for the thinking. And you can't expect to create a new life for yourself without creating inconvenience or disruption.
Yeah.
So the avoidance of inconvenience and disruption is going to keep you in the old life.
Yeah, it's like that saying, isn't it? To make an omelette, you've got to break some eggs. That's
Yeah.
you know.
So tell me about Spain and the decision to go to Spain, and how did you get to that?
So this has always been, I'm married, we don't have kids, but I am married. And this has always been, something we've spoken about. We've been together for like 17, 18 years. I'm not very good with the dates and stuff. He's better with that kind of stuff than I am. But it's something we've spoken about a lot, like living abroad, like what we want for our lives and what we want our lifestyles to be. He's 53, I'm just about to turn 50. And I think you get to a stage in your life, and it's like you say, it's a real double-sided thing, because obviously money is really important. To do what we're doing, we've had to plan and live our lives and to do certain things for a long time to get to where we are now. So money's really important. But then ironically, you get to a certain age where you're like, you know what, this is enough money for us to have a lifestyle that we are happy with at this. I mean, we're downsizing our house. You know, we're moving to a much cheaper lifestyle. We're not moving to yachts and villas and, you know, because we've decided the level of the lifestyle that we're happy with and we're ready to do it now, you know. So rather than wait for 10 years or whatever, we're like, we're happy with we're not striving for more anymore.
Yes.
We're like, so it's meant for more internally, but I'm not striving for more. Like, my attachment to material things has pretty much vanished in the last 3 or 4 years or something. And it's funny, I'll just interject with another story about my mum, if you don't mind, about
Mm.
that. So she was a bit of a hoarder and she loved stuff. She had like loads of shoes and clothes, and she collected things and she loved stuff. And I think I got that from her a little bit as I was growing up. And as she was obviously passing away, she said to my sister and I, like, before she was really like at the end, she was like, what's going to happen with all of my stuff? You girls need to take it. You need to look after it. Her husband, he's not going to look after it. You need to look after all my stuff. And we were like, don't worry about that, Mum. You know what I mean? And then as she was getting closer and closer, I said to her, what stuff in particular do you want me to look after for you, Mum? And she held my hand and said, you know what, Sally, none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff. I don't care. Do what it, burn it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I think she'd very late, obviously, she'd come to this realization that material possessions mean nothing. And that taught me such a huge lesson. So yeah, I've gone completely off track from what you were asking, but this is.
But I love what you're giving is the wisdom. How old was your mum?
62, so young.
Yeah.
10 years ago, she should have been 70 year.
That is so young, isn't it?
Yeah, she kept saying, I didn't even make it to 63. She was so annoyed.
Did 63 mean something to her?
No, I just think she just knew she was too young, I think.
Yeah.
She was annoyed that she was going so soon, I think.
But I'm loving the wisdom from somebody who's reflecting back over their life and looking at what matters. And do you think that in our life that certain decades we're proving something to someone, and it changes who we're proving what and to, depending on the kind of in your 20s? What do you think we're proving and who to in our 20s?
Really, and I've reflected on this quite a lot lately. I said to my husband the other day that I feel like this is the year I've actually really learned to trust myself. And the reason I say that is, even though I've been on a growth and evolution journey for several years now, so you would think that I'd have picked this up a long time ago, but I feel like in life we're programmed from birth to be reliant on other people and to seek approval, validation, acceptance from others. And when we're younger, we do actually need that to a large degree or another to survive in the societal things that we're put into, nursery school, university, the workplace, whatever. So, I've thought to myself, oh gosh, would my life have been better had I learned to become unreliant on people and not needing external validation and approval earlier? And actually, I don't think that is something we should be striving for. I think there's a time and a place for it. Like, every era of our lives serves us in different ways. I feel like I've come to an era in my life now where I no longer need to rely on anyone else. So I don't need validation, approval, acceptance from anybody. But 10 years ago, I probably did genuinely need that. So I don't think, again, this whole personal development journey, people shouldn't be like, oh, well, to be, she's at 50 and she's saying she's no longer needing things and she doesn't care what people think, so I should be striving for that now. To be honest, no, love. You're in that era where that actually is something that you do need. So every part of our life, every era of our life, we naturally, I kind of feel, come to a different awakening, a different remembering, and a different place as to what we value and what we feel that we need. So it's like everything in its time. That's why, like I say, like even now at 50, this year I've just learned to trust myself. For whatever reason, until this year, I have felt or needed external validation. It's been part of my journey.
Yeah.
Now that's finished, thank the Lord. And now I don't need that anymore, but it's only because I've come all this way. Now I'm in a position where I don't need it. So, it's a bit of a cautionary tale, I think, for younger women who think, I don't care what people think and I don't need approval and I don't need validation. Be mindful of that, because you might be in an era in your life when actually you do need those. And there's nothing wrong with needing those things either, by the way. Absolutely nothing wrong with it.
No, because sometimes it can be just an indicator that you are either coming across the way you want to come across, or doing well, or meeting expectations that are measurable, that are work expectations. And that kind of robustness of I don't care what people think can come with a bit of sabotage almost, can't it? Because we can end up speaking to people in a way that we might regret because we're in I don't care mode, rather than it can be I'm okay with what people think about me because I know what's true.
Yeah.
It can be that, can't it, rather than I don't care. And I think people can go to one end of the extreme than the other. I remember in my 20s, I was proving to my dad that I was a good person. So that's why I wanted to get into sales, because my dad did sales. So my dad was my best friend right up until when my mum died. So my mum sadly committed suicide when I was 14. Then my dad married my stepmom 6 months later. Nothing had started beforehand, but it did start pretty quickly, and they got married. My stepmom was an alcoholic, and she used to beat me up and psychologically abuse me. So my dad and I, for a quiet life, he didn't interfere with Jan's way. And, that's the way it was 40 years ago. Not for everybody. But I went into sales. So and I'm estranged from my dad now, but I went into sales because I wanted to prove to my dad I was a good person and I was doing something just like him. But then I forgot why I'd got into it. And I actually enjoyed doing sales in hospitality. I did sales for hotel groups and I learned such a lot. But because of my upbringing and because of my stepmom didn't like me and the things that she used to say, I needed everybody to like me because it meant she was wrong. And it's really interesting, that's in retrospect. I didn't know at the time that I'd created this behavior of needing validation, and if somebody didn't like me, in my mind, it went to Jan was right. So it kind of, their dislike went onto a massive pile that was nothing to do with them. And then in my 30s, I realised I've got this ladder against this wall, which has given me such a lot. But what if I was no longer attached to what my dad thought? But this thinking, I don't know whether you can relate to this, but this thinking isn't present at the time. And it's not conscious. It's just creates unconscious behaviours and drivers, doesn't it? And I remember working all hours God sends in hospitality, because I was constantly proving that I was worthy of the job. And then there was a book I read, The 10-Minute Life Coach by Fiona Harold. And the question was, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And so I then just explored all the things I was fascinated in. And once I let go of needing to get the next promotion, so that then my dad would see that, look how good I am, regardless of how I felt, because I felt actually most of the time that I was pretending to be somebody I wasn't. And that, Peter Thompson says you can't consistently be who you are not. And so that was a big stress. And then when I retrained in everything I do now, I felt liberated. I didn't need to be the center of attention in the sales team. I didn't need all this, there was a lot of effort convincing people that I was nice. And I was convincing them not to prove to myself, because of this childhood, what shall we call it? Childhood legacy, if you like, of needing to overcome that. And so then in my mid 30s, I was 34 when I set up my own business. It has been a journey of liberation and deepening my self-trust. And I remember a client once saying to me, I said, so how do you feel about your session? And she said, and she had like an intimidating part to her personality that I was aware of, that I would feel a little bit triggered inside by. It would make me a bit nervous at times. And she said, yes, I enjoyed it, and I quite like you too. And I found myself saying, oh, it never entered my mind that you wouldn't. And then I thought, I'm cured.
Yeah.
I'm cured. I'm no longer wondering if somebody likes me and what else do I need to do to make them like me.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you relate to any of that, or is this?
All of that. I relate to all of that. You know, the stuff that happens in our childhood is so impactful, isn't it? You know, and I think, and everyone kind of starts to unpack that at different times. I think for me, I've definitely needed some distance from it to be able to look back on things a bit clearer and understand why I've behaved the way I've behaved. But very similar to you, like I had a lot of abandonment and rejection, and yeah, my child is a whole other story that we're not going to go into. But I had a lot of that in my past as well. And I realised that, yeah, my people pleasing, my pushing myself, my striving, I thought my self-worth was completely tied up in my success, my financial success, my achievements, my productivity. You know, I realised that my whole life I've thought that I was this sort of lazy, ungrateful, selfish little girl. And clearly I'm not, you know, but yeah, but isn't it just, it's interesting because it is just all part of your growth and evolution, you know. So there's I don't know about you, but regret is such a waste of energy in my mind. So even the story you've just told then, like, I wouldn't wish for you to have had that realization any sooner than you did, because you had it when you were ready.
Yes.
And it's different for everybody, and it's okay. Like, I'm still having earth-shaking awakenings now, and I'm about to turn 50. There's still things that occur, and I'm like, oh my, that's why. I think like that's why this happens. That's why. Oh gosh, it all makes sense now. And I would feel, I don't want there to come a day where I'm not learning, where I'm not having these realizations. Like, yeah, for anyone who's listening who's younger, you know, you don't feel that you need to push to have these moments as quickly as you can, so that you can live a fuller life sooner, if you know what I mean, because the journey is yours and it'll all unfold in its right time. You know, I've still got 40, maybe 50 years I'm only halfway through, love, you know what I mean? And I'm 50 and I genuinely feel like I'm only halfway through. I've still got 50 years of this to go.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it all unfolds in the right time. You know, that realization that you had, that you were doing all this to get acceptance and to prove to your dad that you were a good, likable person, to prove your stepmom wrong. You know, the things that led you to were good, were in your best good, highest good in a lot of ways. That was part of your healing journey.
It was my university of life. You know, I'm not an academic person, although I've invested significantly in my education of what I do now, my choice. And so for me, and like you know, when you said at the beginning that you thought, when you saw Oprah Winfrey, you thought, I meant to do that. I had the same feeling of, I haven't got this life for no reason. When I was like 11, 12, I thought, nobody I know has got a life like I've got. I wonder why I've got it. I must be here to make a profound difference. And you don't go and make it when you leave home at 17. You've then got all of that, what that childhood created, to then play out and to
explore an adventure, and yeah, let it
fail hard and make mistakes, so that it led me to becoming a coach and a mindset specialist, and empowerment with the firewalking. And I know what it's like to have absolutely no belief in myself but still be successful. But also I know what it's like to be successful and have belief, and how much easier it is. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm doing all right without my belief. I think life is really hard without it. But I believe that I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing today in the way that I'm doing it if I hadn't have had that experience. And I'm with you. I don't believe in regret, because everything is for our learning, our nudge to somewhere else. I mean, I'm sure you'd rather have changed direction without a burnout, but
I don't actually. I really, really don't, because it was what I needed. The change wouldn't have happened without it. You know, it's like, you know, I've had some, you know, pretty terrible things happen to me in my life. I don't have regret for any individual one of them, because it's all been sent for me in this lifetime. It's what I've needed. You know, the people in my life, the experiences that I've had, they're all for me. Even if they're terrible at the time, they're all for me. Yeah, even losing my mum, which is the single most devastating thing I've ever experienced, and make no bones about it. It truly, truly is. There was like before my mum died and after my mum died, like it completely changed my entire life. But, I can still see what that gave me. And she might have, and in the grand scheme of things, maybe she felt that she was leaving too soon. Maybe she was here to teach me a lot of things. And then she had to leave at that time so that I could learn those lessons and keep moving forward in my life. It's all unfolding as it should, so you can't regret anything. All you can regret is not doing something that you feel is right for you, following your own intuition. I think then we can be like, oh yeah, maybe I should have done that. But the only way to avoid that is to follow the nudges and take action, to leap before the net's there, before you know exactly how it's going to all work out. Take the action, follow your intuition. That's how, when you've got this nudge inside you that you're meant for more, that's how you follow it, by thousands of tiny steps that you take.
I agree. And I think what I'm hearing meant for more means for you, and it does for me as well, which is it's the what more within me am I to access, learn, know, and step into? Rarely have I heard anybody ever describe it as more money, or sometimes it might be more love and it might be more connection, but that's still that inside fulfillment, isn't it? And I think since lockdown, more people have realised what matters and what doesn't matter. And there might, some people might still be living their old life again after lockdown, having promised themselves they wouldn't. They might have found, look, I'm lucky to have a job. Many people don't have jobs since, that they might be having that thing of, compared to others, I'm lucky, so I'm not going to rock the boat. Better the devil, all those kind of things. But deep down inside, they had a glimpse into a kind of more balanced life that they promised themselves they would go and have afterwards, but in some way found themselves back in the old pattern. And I, want to call out to those people and just say, as you've said, Sally, sit in silence. You might not have a week to do it in, but take some moments a day and sit in silence and tune into what thoughts they have and how do they feel when they think those thoughts, and then journal that and see if they can spend some more time the next day for a few minutes. In closing, what would be the best wisdom that you've got in you that you can gift to our viewers and listeners?
I'd honestly say that tuning into and listening to your intuition is the absolute number one. Without my intuition, without having, I am really, really soul guided. You know what I mean? Like my intuition is what's been the driving force in my whole life, really. When I look back and when I think about it. So for me, I think the number one thing is to find silence. Detach from external noise, external validation, from what's going on, from needing the latest gadget to buying the latest handbag, or tune out from all of that and turn inward, because all of the wisdom and guidance you need is there. You might not be able to hear it at the moment because there's a lot of other noise and stuff. But yeah, tuning into your own intuition, silencing enough that you can start to hear it. And everyone hears and feels it different. It's not like I don't hear like an actual voice, you know what I mean? It's not like I hear a voice in my head, but like you said, I'll feel in my body a certain way. And as the more you do it, you come to recognize the signs, and the nudges. You kind of can see them and you can understand what they mean. You're looking for the signs from the universe, whatever it might be, that you're on the right path, and listen to that and follow it, even if it doesn't make sense. And even if the people in your life don't understand it. This is your life. You need to live it. So yeah, tune into and trust your intuition is the number one piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, I love that, because that's your inner guidance. And you're right. I always say, so often people have an idea and then say to somebody, what do you think about it? And that idea is either supported or snuffed out in a nanosecond. And I would say incubate that idea. And it's a treasure. You need to take it to a space and with a person who's going to help you have the courage to look at it. I've got my hands here like that. And understand it and clarify it.
Yeah, it's something I've definitely done in my life, where I have, with that external validation and acceptance pieces, I've looked for external validation in my ideas and what I'm doing, and often that's led me off course. So yeah, it's great to have people in your corner and people that you trust. But no matter what, and even if you've got a coach or whatever they say, fundamentally, it's your, like, self-leadership and self-responsibility is a huge part of my life. Well, no matter what anyone says or whatever guidance anyone gives you, you're the ultimate decision maker in your life. You've got no one to blame. But if you follow someone's advice, doesn't go well, it's not their fault, it's your fault. You know what I mean? So yes, seek advice, get some trusted people, but then go away and tap into what you know to be the right decision for you. Don't just follow blindly what someone else says. Self-responsibility and self-leadership is so important to learn and develop over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sally, thank you so much. I'm going to put all your details in the description box so people can find you. And I hope you have an amazing birthday tomorrow. What are you doing to celebrate it?
My birthday's not tomorrow, my birthday's Boxing Day, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm turning 50 on Boxing Day. So to be honest, it's funny. I'm not actually a huge big birthday celebration kind of person, because I'm celebrating internally turning 50, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm on my journey, I know. So we're just doing two of my favorite things. We're going to watch a movie and go out for a meal, just me and my husband. For some people, birthdays are huge, big celebrations, and I honor that. I respect that. But for me, that's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously we're getting ready to move to Spain, so that's a huge big birthday celebration, I suppose.
What date will you be in Spain from?
January. We're moving over in January.
I hope it all goes well. We'll be following you because the world is, in our hands all the time, literally.
And I'm on YouTube as well, so you can follow my journey on YouTube.
Fab. I'll put all your details in the description box and people can find you there. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart such wisdom. When I watch this back, and there was that gem and that gem and that gem. So thank you, darling. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you.